Yo, what is up, everybody? This is K-Rail reporting live from my living room in Park City, Utah. Now, you're watching this now, probably not when I'm live, but I just like to say live because I'm live currently in the present moment. I only think in the present moment. I'm the Chief Fitness Advisor for Pine Pond Superfoods and Train for Longevity. And this is our, well, you can call it the Train for Longevity podcast or Pine Pond podcast. I kind of like to go with synchrony, whatever the word is, synchronousness. So I like to call it the Pine Pond podcast. Anyway, I've got a super special guest on again today, my good friend Zach Blain. We interviewed him a while back, I think it was the beginning of January to be exact, when he decided out of the clear blue sky to have this great, brilliant idea to do the Omad diet for an entire year straight. So we are now actually February, March, April. We're like January, February, March, April. We're in the fourth month of the year. We're basically a third through the year already. Boy, does time fly. So I'm dying to know what Mr. Blain has been up to with his diet, how he's doing with it. And we're gonna flesh that out a little bit more. We're gonna talk about the difference between OMAD and the Warrior diet. And we're gonna talk about all of the crazy things that are going on in the world right now related to the coronavirus and how that varies from state to state, how he's making out, what he's doing up there. And we're gonna talk also about another important aspect of this whole coronavirus, and that is keeping kids fit and able-minded mentally during this whole challenge, because it's foreign to all of us, but it's especially foreign to kids who are trapped at home, who can't go out and play with their friends at the playgrounds, who can't go to school, who can't go to sports anymore, who have birthdays, who are 5, 6, 7 years old. I know Zach's son just celebrated a birthday recently, and I'm dying to know how he dealt with that and coped with it. And I think it's gonna be really good information for all of you listeners out there to kind of follow along basically what he said and figure out ways that we can get creative right now. Because I look at this whole situation as not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a real good thing. It's just that it gets packaged as a really bad thing. And then fear sets in, and then fear takes over. And then everyone becomes fear-stricken, and then it becomes bad. But in reality, to me, this is nothing more than a recycling. It's just a reset process for the world, for the nation. I mean, if you drive a plane over LA, or if you walk down the street in LA, you're going to look up in the sky and you're going to see blue sky. You're going to see sun for the first time in arguably 50 years. So tell me that's a bad thing. I can't hear you. Exactly. It's not a bad thing. So in reality, there are a lot of good things happening right now because of the coronavirus. And that is where you should concentrate, and that's where you should place your attention, and that's what you should focus on all day, every day. Focus on solutions, focus on that which is going good, and focus on what you can do to contribute to the solution and not the problem. So there's my big monologue. Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today, Mr. Zach Blain. For any of you that don't know, Zach is a certified personal trainer through NASM. He's got probably about 20 years worth of experience in the field. He comes from a teaching background. He comes from a dance background. He does some really exquisite and unique and amazing things with his body and with weights and with kettlebells, and does very unconventional training. And I highly suggest, if you don't follow him yet, make sure to look him up on Facebook, follow him on Instagram, and follow all the stuff he does, because the dude knows his stuff, and he's really fun to watch. And I mean, he does some really crazy stuff. And also, I would like to mention, he's been an independent personal trainer for over 10 years now. He just celebrated his 10-year anniversary at his studio, which is a huge milestone. And the way he went about doing that is absolutely incredible and amazing. And I'm sorry to keep talking, but I have to keep throwing all these things out because I have a lot of stuff in my head, because there's always a hamster wheel going on with squirrels on it. So anyway, without further ado, Zach, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And thanks for mentioning the 10-year anniversary. It's huge because I did a post recently online, and it actually blew up quite a bit, I think, because 10 years ago, what I was trying to do is do no business cards, no website, one client. And with that, build through personal connection of people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel, that I could build that into something because it's interpersonal and it's not this big, huge website or putting out a bunch of content. And that's about to change because now we're in a new world, but it grew to 53, and 83% of my clients have been with me for 8 years or longer, this has been huge. And now with our current situation, it's nice that they continue to support me digitally until we can find a solution. And now I'm becoming much more tech savvy learning how to reach out to them without bandwidth blocking out, and be able to give them content and personal content and updates and progressions and regressions, even though I can't see them in person, it's an interesting new dynamic. After finishing 10, my next 10 years probably will be totally different because the times have changed.
Right. And I do believe, I've been saying this forever. Well, not forever. I mean, I've been working on projects to get myself out of the gym scene forever, because I knew there was going to be eventually a ripple would occur, a fracture in the system would happen, and I want to be prepared and I want to be ready for it. And I didn't like the idea of always having to drive to the gym back and forth for exchanging time for money all the time. And my philosophy has changed over the years with fitness. Now, all of a sudden, we've been gift wrapped and handed this thing called the coronavirus. And I don't mean that to sound like I'm all for it, because I'm not. Believe me, I'm thrown on my groove too. My main problem is the human connection aspect that I'm missing out on. And like the gym for me was like a hub or a portal of social life. That was basically my social life. I'm not like a partier. I don't drink heavy. I'll have a cocktail every now and then to cut the edge off from a long day or something, and that's fine. But I'm not like, I can't wait to go on bars on Friday night and just drink and eat tons of food and stuff. That's not my lifestyle. So as far as the bars closing and the restaurants and all that stuff, I'm a big DIY guy. I know you are as well. I'm really unaffected by most of the stuff that everyone else is affected by, because I've always lived like not a scarcity mindset, but a minimalist mindset, and be prepared to go into battle with minimal provisions. And maybe because I've always wanted to be on the game show Survivor, and I kind of fashioned my life off it. I'm like, well, there's super minimalist on there, and if I ever get on the show, I got to be mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually prepared. So I've always kind of had that mindset, and I'm like, I started doing it years ago, and I'm like, it just seems like having less overhead in your whole life, that direction. So now we're forced into this lifestyle, and a lot of people are not used to it, and it's way out of their comfort zone, but I'm sort of at home with it. Now, you made a good point, and the landscape of fitness is changed forever, starting a couple weeks ago. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I know that's happening. So what impact do you see the coronavirus having on your hometown personally? And what are the like laws and regulations going on in Oregon, as opposed to say California, where like things are real strict there? And here in Utah, they're in the strict zone, but they're not like so strict that it's like martial law has been impacted or called in or anything like that. The minute that happens, then we're all screwed. But what's kind of going on out there?
Well, it's interesting. When I look state by state, I haven't been to Texas too many times, but I kind of like how Texas has been doing it. And they're taking it county by county. So for Oregon, I always say we're California's Canada. And in that, I mean, like, you don't know really what's up there. You know it's nice, but you don't really know what's up there. But when kid does something, we usually copy it. So our situation in Oregon has some differences, but it's pretty much the same as California. Everything is shut down, has to be run digitally in terms of certain categories that are not deemed necessary. Although alcohol stores are deemed necessary, which is
same here,
which is, odd. No judgment, but it's odd.
I found out why. I'll explain why in a second, but go ahead, continue.
Well, what I learned is that there's certain people that with their health conditions, they're dependent on it. They have to have it or it will cause more health issues.
Exactly it.
It is frustrating because I live in a county that has 66,000 people, and we are the same size as Rhode Island and Connecticut combined, just the county. Mm-hmm. So my frustration is trying to understand that certain parts of the flyover states have been kind of practicing social distancing their whole lives. You live in farm areas where, I always say, is anybody else out there a loner before it was cool? I'm just saying, like, we already distance ourselves, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to people that are in urban areas, but also to treat those areas a little differently than a place where you have to hit a baseball 7 times before you see your neighbor. Mm-hmm. And it's been frustrating. I've learned how to do more digital formatting to it, and you just got to roll with the punches. But it's a pretty good kidney punch to the business, but it's surviving, and I'm operating digitally now. But in watching how people deal with it, the positives have been, I had no idea that I took social interaction for granted, and now I'm totally aware of it. Like it was a fault of mine how much I took meeting people in person for granted. I just thought that was easy, and now it's not. My wife runs a law firm. I run a gym. We're both entrepreneurial, and now we have more time to hang out with our kids, which has been great. Like, and getting them moving and doing schoolwork, which is crazy. Trying to do a law firm, a gym, digitally, and do school modules at the same time would make a very entertaining YouTube video. It would be absolutely hilarious. Sometimes
I'm sure they're already out there. How to train your kids at home, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and it's fun, like just getting them to move around and realizing how much recess they actually need at this age. They don't necessarily need packets right now. They don't need to reinforce memorization, especially with the internet when they can just Google it. What they need to do is do a good 3 hours of just running. And with the Irish background, I always feel like I got to take my kids out and run the Irish setters. They just need to run. They need to move around. They need to play. I mean, the other day we were just here in the yard, and I would have them sprint up the hill and then practice falling down the hill. We did that for like 2 hours. So we played Godzilla, where they just attack dad, like a play fight. And I pretend to fall over and they pretend to crash. And that's quite a workout just by itself, just trying to keep up with them. Mm-hmm. But making sure they're active because they're cooped up inside. And he didn't have it yet, but yes, my son will turn 7 on Tuesday. And what I had done, we have to keep this on the down low because he still hasn't gotten the presents, is I bought him a whole Ninja Warrior course. So he was going to have friends over. We were going to set up a whole course for them to go through, a lot of kids to encourage them to be active, the playground mentality. And now he's still going to get all that stuff, but there's no kids coming over. So if somebody's an adult and they have to do a birthday in isolation, it's interesting. But explaining that to a 7-year-old is tricky because it's just going to be the 4 of us, and he'll open presents and we'll try to make it super exciting. But he is an old soul. He's handling it well, but it's not easy. And those are some of the challenges we're facing and how we're different than other states. But we're pretty much in the same rules and regulations as California now.
Okay. Well, I know the rule here is all businesses basically are shut down minus the essentials, which is pretty much across the United States. Now, a new rule that I've just become familiar with is you're not allowed to cross your county line for any reason, period. So no, definitely not for pleasure, not for camping, not for hiking, not for anything. And you can't get fined if you're caught crossing the county line. So that's an attempt to obviously keep people compacted in close proximity. Now, I've been going to the grocery store. I've been going to the post office. I'm going to be picking up trash this afternoon. And everywhere is like, I see people walking in the neighborhoods and stuff. And it's interesting because I see people making more contact with people than I normally would see them. Sometimes they would just walk by someone and say, hey, how's it going? But now people are stopping dead and talking to people and engaging across the street from them, 10 feet away, 15 feet away. And they're making eye contact. So I'm seeing positive changes happening. People are becoming more neighborly. When this is all said and done, people are going to be excited to see a friend they haven't seen in a while and wrap their arms around them and hug them. They're going to be more excited to tell people they love them because they don't know if they're going to see them again. They don't know if something like this could crop up again down the road. And it's resetting the atmosphere. I'm seeing it. And you said it yourself. You're becoming more close with your kids. You'll be able to spend more family time with them and stuff like that. Your family union and relationship is starting to blossom more. And these are the good things that are happening right now. And that's what I encourage people to focus on is look beyond the fourth wall at what the good stuff is and look deep inside yourself. We have a lot of extra time right now to be by ourselves and be sequestered and be quarantined. And it's a time to look inside your body and yourself and like really connect the dots and align your goals and ambitions with what you're doing currently before this thing started. And were they all in alignment with each other or not? So it's a really good time to purge a lot of negative stuff you had going on and really get dialed in to that which you really want in life. And if you want your business to go from where it is now to double what it is, now is the time to sit there and think and come up with a strategy and a game plan on how to do it. And if it's highly through the digital platform, then figure out, well, what's that going to take and how do I do it and how do I market and blah, blah, blah. Because now is the time to do all those things. And I also know that another wave is going to happen during this whole coronavirus where people are going to see that, like I was mentioning before, the smog example. So they're going to see less smog in these cities. And then they're going to say, well, heck, if I stop driving to work every day and using commuter services, that's going to cut down the carbon footprint. It's going to produce less gases going up into the atmosphere, and it's going to contribute to keeping the skies clear. Because I like this thought of the skies being clear. The businesses that are shut down, where people are starting to work remotely, are going to start noticing this. This is the hope that I have. And then people are going to realize, oh, if we stop driving, we're not going to spend so much money on gas and oil, and the price of gas and oil is going to go way down. That's going to be a good thing. My car's not going to get as much wear and tear. That's a good thing. I'm not going to have to pay mechanic bills so much. That's a good thing. My tires aren't going to get worn to smithereens. I'm not going to buy tires so much. And there's all these little nuances that are happening as we speak that I'm seeing. And I haven't heard a single soul talking about it. All I hear about is people shoving their initiatives in my face, telling me I got to start wearing masks and gloves, and I shouldn't go to the post office, and I shouldn't go to the store, and I shouldn't do this, and da-da-da, and blah, 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 blah. Because everyone is still focused on the negative. And all these things I'm telling you right now are going to happen. And you know what else is going to happen? Adults are going to find out that it's a lot easier to homeschool their kids. It's going to be a lot easier to keep track of their kids who are not exposed to all the toxic kids that are in school that are doing bad things and drugs and all these other things. The drug rates are going to go down. The crime rates are going to go down. They may end up keeping their kids in the homeschooling process because they're going to get into a groove. They're forced to do it now. They may find they love it. And what's going to happen then? All these magical things. It's like a forest fire comes across, burns everything to the ground, and there's nothing left but black char. Then all of a sudden, these beautiful flowers start blossoming, one here, one here. Then beautiful shrubs start blossoming. Before you know it, this whole community of agriculture and growth occurs after the burnt and the char. That wasn't there before the char. So I think that's the direction this is going right now. And it was meant to happen, and it's going to happen. That's the reset I'm talking about.
Well, it is interesting going to the grocery store. It's kind of like playing Tetris or Twister. They've got here in Oregon, they've got yellow tape everywhere, so you have to stand on squares. So it, like the other, I like timing everything. Yeah. So I hit the timer before I went to the grocery store, and the timer when I left, and it took me 52 minutes longer to go to the grocery store than it used to. And it depends. So you have to be really picky. And sometimes I go to places I would never go to, like a grocery, like I'll go to a gas station to pick up a couple random things because the volume is much less. Or I'll go to Circle K because they got
that's a good insider tip right there for people.
You got all the stuff. You don't have the lines. And but even those guys are busy. People are really stocking up. There is fear. There's always fear with things like this. And to play devil's advocate a little bit, I will definitely have a lot. I've always had it because my parents were teachers, but I will have even more appreciation for teachers now because when they go back to school, I mean, it really gives you an appreciation for how much they do for you during the day. And it gives your life structure. Like I know people will become more insular and go back to their house, and the carbon footprint on things will go down, wear and tear. Although it does concern me that no one's working on roads, bridges, and airports right now. It's a great time to
it is. Oh my gosh, you're right.
It's a totally time. Everybody talks about the infrastructure all the time. I can't think of a better time to work on the infrastructure. And while everybody else is hurting, it would be really cool if there was a politician from either side of the aisle that suspended their own pay right now just to make a point and be brave that other people are going through hard times. Mm-hmm. But it does give you a sense of community, like to go to a place. Like sometimes, like I shaved before this. It was crazy. I shaved my quarantine beard because I felt like I had to get in work mode. For 5 minutes, it's like, oh, work mode, it's great. And then I realized, no, I'm still in quarantine. But it's all that mentality of like getting into character, going to a place. I feel really bad for everybody in a restaurant or bar, entertainment. My friends that are in Circus Soleil right now, my friends that work in Vegas, like those, it's very, very hard for them because that whole thing will change drastically. And that's really good for communities too. It's good to have, I would rather see bars, restaurants, and places of community fill up large buildings in a community and not have them be, I wouldn't want to see a CrossFit gym be sold to Amazon just to store boxes.
Yeah, I hear you.
And that's the kind of buildings I don't really want to have in my community. I want to have buildings that have live energy and people meeting to have dinner, exotic food, parks, going to, I mean, like right now we're been advised not to go to playgrounds. And that's just so
sad.
It's sad. It is a very sad thing to not be able to take my kids, and I call it orangutan strength. We're just going out and hanging out and keeping all of that lat strength in tune and swinging
Brachiation,
on the
baby,
monkey
that's where
bar.
it's at.
Brachiation, man. Brachiation, crawling, rolling on the ground.
Yeah.
Just being a kid. And of course, the playground is much more conducive for that than just trying to improvise it in a space with nothing. And you can do it in your house, but at the same time, you got to live in your house.
Yeah.
And there is, when you have a family, the whole idea of how can I miss you if you don't go away? That you got to have structure. Like you go to work, I go to work, kids go to school, we come back, regroup. And that structure is important. And that structure is going to definitely change in the coming days. And for interpersonal dynamics of families, that's going to be interesting because they have a routine of going to a place and then returning home. But if you're always home, I don't know if I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, totally. Well, I want to shift gears because we kind of went down a rabbit hole right there, but I want to shift gears back to the fasting thing.
Sure.
And let's pretend the coronavirus isn't going on. We'll go back to our course topic of the day, which is the Omad versus warrior diet. So first of all, what's your familiarity with the warrior diet? I've got some insight on it and stuff like that, but I'm curious to know what you know about it and how would you say the Omad diet is akin to that, if at all?
My understanding of the warrior diet is it has a little bit more rules to it. It does have kind of one meal a day. It has kind of a machismo vibe to it, which is important to people. But what I appreciate about the Omad is it doesn't necessarily have rules and it's highly personalized. So you can tailor it. It's an umbrella term that you can tailor to yourself. So no one's telling you what to do. And I think when it comes to food, especially, I really like things that'll have versatility where you're making it your own. And with Omad, it is a more advanced version of intermittent fasting, but it's not, I'm telling you what to do, or I think you should do it the way I do it. It's making it a very much, you tailor it, just like tailoring a workout to somebody, where a warrior is a little bit more like, you need to do it this way. And that's a pitfall that a lot of diets have that have always turned me off to it. So when other people talk about diet, I go, just practice skipping a meal. And if that works, we can work on making it more advanced, and always write down what your body doesn't like. And that will be different because we're all physiologically a little different. So there's certain foods that my body doesn't respond well to. Mm-hmm. And that's my diet. That's my list. I just avoid those things. If my body has no problem with a certain food, I don't avoid it. I just put it into a eating time frame.
Okay.
That's now one meal a day.
Right on. Well, the basis of the warrior diet is, I feel like it has a little more structure that is in the direction of grazing to me in a way, because I think the main difference between the warrior diet, am I wrong? Do you agree with that?
No, it does have some grazing. It definitely has some kind of random, it has some snacks to it.
Yeah. So it's like you're allowed to have like these marginal amounts of food through the day, and then you have like one big gelatinous meal at nighttime. So I think the big difference between the two is you eliminate all that preceding small stuff in the afternoon. And even though it's like, the recommendation is clean stuff, smoothies, whatever, supplements and different things like that, and whole food supplements and things, it's still stuff. And anytime you take your blood sugar up to a certain point, you bring yourself out of a fast. So if you're doing all these little things through the day, even if it's twice during the day, you're still basically breaking a fast. So I don't really think, because sometimes people say that that's like the first fasting plan there was or something. Well, I don't really think it's a fast at all. I think it's just a dietary plan. And then you have this big meal in the evening, and he recommends having your big meal in the evening. Okay, that's fine and dandy. Now, you eliminate all those small things you're eating in the afternoon, and you're just drinking water and having sea salt, and then you have one big meal at night, then you're in the ball game. Then you're doing one meal a day. Also known as, oh man, one meal at night. Some people call it that. I don't know if you ever heard that. Have you heard that?
Oh no, with this going on, I've had all kinds of jokes, like one Bloody Mary a day. I've heard one poop a day. I was like, okay. So I've heard all of it. And again, if that works for them, that's great. But my window has evolved. So again, with kids, again, now that I'm doing homeschooling, it's tricky. And also I've been very, very strict on not out an image of restricting my eating in front of my kids, because if they want to do that, that needs to be a decision they made 10, 20 years from now, because of that's a lifestyle they chose. I don't want to influence them on food that way. But really funny, the other day is my wife was making cookies with them. They made the cookies. They're super excited about these chocolate chip cookies. They're making multiple dozens of them. And we're taking a break after playing Godzilla for 4 hours and rolling up the hill, and they're finally sitting down and relaxing. So we're watching, I think, Secret Life of Pets. And my daughter, who's going to be 3 in June, just keeps trying to feed me cookies. Eat the cookie, Daddy, eat the cookie. And I go, no, not yet. And my wife is cracking up because I'm super disciplined. Like, I do not have a window until 5 o'clock. And then you hear this little 2-year-old going, don't be silly, Daddy, eat the cookie, eat the cookie. And I just had to keep waiting until my window was open. But you're around kids, it's kind of like, it's a little challenging. And my wife is amazing with cookies. So I'm sitting there going like, I see 56 cookies here. My kids are trying to force feed me cookies. And I still have like 12 minutes and I got 3 minutes. And I'm like, let's watch the show for a little while, trying to distract them. And then finally at 5:01, when my window was open,
floodgates.
I knew it was going to be cookies. It was going to be cookies, at least to start.
So you just kind of, go ahead. You answered my question.
Yeah, just I knew that was going to be part of the equation of my one meal, because the temptation is real, and they were already made. And when you do those long blocks, they were easy in the beginning. January, February wasn't bad, but I'm now past the 90-day mark, and now I know why it's called P90X, because there's something about that 90 days. Once you get to 90 days, it's a little bit. It's kind of like I did it for 3 months. I did a long time. And now it's getting a little bit more mentally challenging to actually go like, all right, I still got to do 260 plus days of this. And I got to do it on a leap year. And I'm just getting started. But I did do 90, but it's not legit yet. And so that 90-day mark, if somebody does this, you'll find it more mentally exhausting after that 90 days, because that feels like a huge accomplishment all by itself. And then you realize you got to do times 3 of that. And that takes some processing, especially when you got a 2-year-old trying to get you to eat a cookie.
Well, I find that interesting. I was going to ask you what you normally break the fast with, and how long is your actual eating window, because I have some thoughts on that. And I also have one more thing to add. In October, way before you even started this Omad idea, I had started going, I was basically, I would say 85% vegan up until like October 1st. And then I decided to go completely 100% vegan in the month of October. By the end of the month, I said, I'm going to keep on going and see how long I can hold out or go, because I'm feeling fine. And I don't feel like the massive need to eat meat. And then I'm like, I got this idea in my head. I'm like, well, you know what? I think it was like December. I'm like, I'm going to go an entire year hardcore vegan. No animal products whatsoever. No honey. No more. What's that kombucha I got you hooked on?
Wild tonic.
No wild tonic kombucha. No nothing for an entire year. So here I am, 6 months into it, and it's so easy. It got easier over time for me, staying like hardcore vegan. And when the year is up, I'm going to reassess the situation. And like I said in the beginning, for me, my purpose for doing that was because I dig deep into biohacking and trying to reverse the aging process, and I don't want to trigger mTOR pathway too much, too often. So if you do it once or twice a week, you're going to be fine. So what I was doing before is basically I had animal protein twice a week. And then I just eliminated it for the month. And I'm like, I think I can go a whole year. So I feel it became easier for me. You're saying it's getting a little more challenging going Omad. And I don't think I would ever go that far to do Omad for a year personally, just because of my disordered eating habits in the past. And I think I could possibly get out of control of that, because a day might come where I'll be like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I need to eat today. I'm gonna push it. And then like the next day would come, and I think I might. For me, that's probably not a good idea. Although I say that time restricted eating and fasting in general is definitely a treatment for me to stay on track. I think if I worked my way down to Omad, I think there's a chance that would just be too much for me. So I know enough to stay away from that. It's like knowing of a friend who's an enabler, and you were once an alcoholic, or you are an alcoholic and haven't drank in 20 years, but you know that this friend drink so much that he may cause you to drink if you hang around him. You're not going to hang around that friend. So.
And I know about your past with that. I am a little bit lucky that I can eat each food group and it doesn't seem to affect me. So I usually have a pretty big window. It's been 4 and
or what?
4 hours. I just have a 4-hour window. And
okay, that's a long window, man. And if I was to do OMAD, I would like people have come to me for advice. People I've coached before and like, I want to do OMAD for 2 days a week or blah, blah, blah. When should I eat? And I'm like, well, that's great, but make sure your eating window is not too long, because then it's all of a sudden like you're grazing for 4 hours in a row. And I'm like, try to keep it an hour and a half or less, to be honest with you. So prepare your food ahead of time and then try to dial it in.
Let me explain that. A lot of that has to do with kids. So it's just like the dynamic of having kids, making sure they're eating, making sure who's cooking tonight, and just the dynamics of family life. It just gives me a window, because like if it's 5 o'clock, I might not be able to eat right at 5. I got to get them fed. I might start at 6. So I just know that from 5 to 9, I can do that. And the other part of it, of why I decided to do the longer window, is the weight loss part. So I wanted to only lose 11 pounds. When I was in grappling and that part of my life, I don't mind cutting weight. I try to do it very smartly and systematically, but I knew that I always function best about 154, or in kilos, 70 kilos about. And I wanted to get to there, but I don't want to get below that. And then because my metabolism is still quite high, which is why I'm not doing a snake diet, because I think I would lose way too much weight. I need to find that balance where I can, and it only took me, give or take a day, it only took me 72 days to drop 11 pounds. So that's a little fast, and that's where I kind of capped it off. So I knew I needed to make some amendments to kind of make sure that it didn't keep dropping down. And I had a big trip with my father-in-law planned. We were going to go do 3 mountains in Bolivia this year, and the highest of which is 21.5, and to experience what it is physiologically to condition yourself above 20,000 feet. I was super excited about it, but I knew from my reading and all the experts that I've been working with on that trip, that just in that trip by myself, in 11 days, they said, you expect to lose about 16 pounds, because we are going nonstop and we are extreme elevation, a lot of demands on our system. So if I was already at 154, I didn't want to get too lean. That wasn't my goal behind it. But my goal behind it is I have less demand for caffeine. I'm sleeping better. When I got tested on everything, my EPOC levels were up, cholesterol was down, blood pressure is down. Those are the things that interest me about the fasting. And usually people focus on the weight loss, but since I can lose weight so easily, I wanted to make sure that part of it didn't get out of control. That's why the window is so large.
Cool. Now I would suggest, if you're asking me completely for what I would have you do, I would say do a 20-hour fast. Treat it like a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour eating window, and then eat a small meal to break your fast at, say, 5 o'clock. And then don't eat again until, say, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. And then have like your main meal at 8. So, and then nothing in between there. If you have something small enough that's real nutrient dense, like a plant-based shake that has like, what are they called? Probiotics built into it, and like antioxidants and all these different things. I have a lot of good plant-based shakes that I use. Have that to break your fast. 120 calories they are, some of them, 125 to 200. Something small, feed your system right there. And then that's not going to take a lot of time for your body to process it and digest it. And then your body can go right back to homeostasis again within a couple hours. Then you eat your main meal, and then you go on your way. Otherwise, when you're eating like constantly for 4 hours, just remember that you're getting a constant spike in blood sugar that whole entire time, and your insulin is just like shooting through the roof. However, asterisk, it is still only a 4-hour window out of 24 hours. So the people that eat from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, who just graze all day long, that's a world of hurt right there. So if you shrink that all the way down to 4 hours, you're still going to get all those benefits you mentioned and not have any kind of major catastrophes occur.
Well, I kind of read your mind on that, buddy, because that's pretty much how it works.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it was just like a pig in a trough. I was just eating so much
I remember
and
you telling
so
me.
much and so much. And then, you know, your body adapts, and I've always had the ability to eat a lot, but now my stomach has definitely shrunk where I get full very quick. So like I have the window because life gets in the way, not because I'm grazing for 4 hours. I hope anybody listening, that's not what I'm doing. I just eat. I just don't know if it's going to happen at 5 or 7, or
Gotcha.
a kid's going to wake up and I got to go rock him back to sleep, that kind of stuff. It's just gives it some versatility. And now that my body's changing and I've gone from 165 down to 154, I kind of like what Steve Maxwell has said about a lot of the stuff, is he likes to stick to one food group. So I don't necessarily avoid meat, but usually I have found some truth in what he's saying when I don't like mixing a lot of different food groups. So to help with the body weight, I love pasta. I eat tons of pasta. And so if I'm feeling like I did an extreme workout that day, I'll switch more to carbs. I always am a fruit and veggie guy. That's my main thing. And I'm not a huge starch guy, but it does come up because I'm definitely in potato country. So I like spuds. But when I do it, I tend to do it now where if it's meat night, I'm just doing meat. And if it's veggie night, I'm just doing veggies. And I've noticed that when I wake up in the morning, that seems to be a lot easier for my system to break down because I'm only putting one food group in. And I'm putting a lot in, but I'm not mixing food groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one major thing I've learned about it, is kind of there is a rationale to picking a food group for that meal, and your body has a much easier time breaking it down. And it has a much harder time breaking down meat, which is something I don't do all the time, but I don't avoid either. There's some times where like I feel mentally like I'm a little slow, and I do think there's some value for myself having some meat sometimes, but I don't mix it with a lot of stuff.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Right, there's one more subject I want to talk about, and then we have to wrap it up. And this is a very important one that I've seen cropping up. So I'm seeing all these memes out there. I'm seeing all these concerned citizens that are homebound, that are gaining weight. They're throwing their diets out the window, etc. And they're nervous about it. And that's where a lot of these memes are stemming from. But another thing that I'm starting to see is not necessarily complaints, but concerns about keeping their kids occupied, keeping their kids in shape as well, and keeping their kids out of their hair. I see that sometimes because kids are active and they need exercise and need fitness. So what I'm seeing is an untapped market right now across the country where kids need good quality physical education, or you can call it physical literacy if you want, movement, activity, whatever. And I think there's a market for this, and it's going to be huge because it's going to benefit the parents to have the kids that are being homeschooled more active, because it's going to tire them out. It's also going to spark their brain function, and they're going to be less out of their hair, so to speak. So what are your thoughts on all this? You have kids, so that's why I'm asking you. I think you'd be a perfect person to talk to about this, and you're a fitness guy at the same time. You alluded to it earlier, but I want to go down that rabbit hole one more time.
I kind of like how Finland does it. They do statistically have the #1 ranked education system in the world year after year. And what's unique about their system is movement and less homework. So homework really doesn't kick in until they're like 13 or 14. And they're required to have 90 minutes of recess every day.
That's awesome.
So kids don't really get homework. They get, it puts a lot of demands on the teacher because they're always doing new projects because they're not grading all the time, but they are doing thinking projects, analysis projects, problem solving projects, and then they are moving all the time. And then homework kind of settles in as they get into their teenage years. And I've noticed that is very important with my kids. Like, to get them to start working on all the stuff that involves sitting, I need to get them kind of tired first, especially since they're young. Going to be 7, going to be 3. So yeah, and since it's something I do, I enjoy putting together little workouts for them, doing little cone drills with them, ladder drills, anything that makes it feel like an obstacle course. And of course, with the Ninja Warrior stuff coming up, we'll have that set up in the yard. So they'll start doing tennis ball pull-ups maybe, or just hanging from them. We'll start doing some slackline stuff in the backyard. And I need to get them into a state where they are semi-fatigued so they can start focusing on other things. And then we do workbooks. We do, my son loves math, so we go into multiplication stuff. We might even start doing some division work with him, even though he's in first grade. And they love that. Puzzles, we do puzzles sometimes to make it more of a group family activity. But that physical, I mean, you never underestimate the power of a strong physical education. And when they are so active, that almost needs to be a priority before we start just doing answer books and stuff that they can just Google online. If you can Google it online, I think it's much more important to learn how to move your body and think about problem solving and thinking experiments and how to work through something with your own words than just keeping them with busy work. Keep them busy by moving their bodies, not keeping them busy by just putting them in front of a notebook or a laptop or an iPad.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm a strong believer and big advocate for cross-body patterns.
Exactly.
Because they fire the brain up even better than anything else. So anytime you have them do something where they're bringing one hand across their body and touching their foot or touching their toe, if they're standing up doing an alternating windmill, those kind of things are like bicycle crunches. That stuff elicits the most amount of brain function out there on the face of the earth. I would suggest doing that as soon as they wake up in the morning, anytime they have a test they have to take, or if they're about to go through a stretch of several hours in a row of high intensity coursework or packets or whatever they're called. I think that's money. And I think that's something that's not being looked at enough in the world right now. And that goes before the coronavirus even occurred. I think now is the time. Again, we go back to the resetting system. PE class, either A, has become a joke across America, or it was being eliminated in most schools because of budget cuts. And I had an interview I did a week and a half ago with my friend Melissa, and I was saying how expensive it is to teach kids how to do squats, proper lunges, planks, push-ups, dips, and pull-ups, exercises that don't require any equipment at all. I don't get it. Now is the time to teach, though, because you have control of your kids, all you people listening at home right now. And you can teach them all these movements and these exercises and these patterns and the importance of exercise and physical activity and getting the endorphins up and running around outside and all those kind of things and how it applies to the schoolwork.
Exactly. And when I think about school, kind of like in our own industry, I always have a problem with clipboard trainers, the ones going around the gym.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a to-do list. They're just like a grocery list. They're like, okay, you did 10 sets of 10. I'm like, well, why am I doing 10 reps? Is there a rationale for that? No, that's just what you do because it sounds official, like 10 sets of 10, top 10 list. Why am I doing that? And whether you're going to go into a gym, a good trainer will make you think about why you need to do this exercise, or he or she will put you in a position where you have to figure out why you're moving a certain way. And when I think about my education, I can never tell people all the classes I took or why I went to a certain school. The only thing I remember is I can tell you about 12 teachers I had that set the course of my trajectory. They made me think. They made me problem solve. They made me learn how to use my body. They made me learn how to protect myself. They made me think through problems or movement solutions or thought experiments. They didn't give me random information to memorize or workbooks to keep me busy. They made me think. And whether we're talking about our industry or schools or homeschooling, I think people remember the people that made them think. They don't remember the classes they took.
Totally agree. I have to ask you this question because I ask this to everybody that I interview. I probably asked you this in January, but I don't remember the answer, so I'm asking you again. Oh. And I know the answer is yes, that you do, but I want to know what flavor. Do you eat ice cream in any of these meals? And what is your favorite flavor if you do?
Mint chocolate chip.
Okay.
Mint chocolate chip all the time, man. And every birthday, since I was probably 5, with my parents, who I'm so thankful they live just up the street. I've told my wife this at the same time, like, I don't care what you get me for my birthday, but what I have to have is a mint chocolate chip ice cream log cake.
Oh, wow. That's hard.
And and again, this year I'll wait till it's my window, but I will definitely destroy that thing when it comes time. And I'll have it kind of like overtraining, it's a lot like overeating. You can do it sometimes. You just don't want to make a habit out of it. And I'm sure my system will hate me for it, but it is my birthday. So once a year, I definitely get the mint chocolate chip ice cream cake.
Well, that's a great choice. You might as well go down swinging if you're going down. Vanilla's
going down.
Is there a particular brand that you fancy?
I
don't know if you have some kind of special, like, hormone antibiotic-free creamery in your town or something that you like, or something along those lines. I always like to plug somebody like that if there is.
I don't get caught up in brands, but I hope it has as little air in it as possible. The more it leans towards gelato and real ice cream and real cream, and not just a bunch of air condensed into a container, I'm all about that. So if I find out that it's high concentration of air and not a lot of ice cream, I check that brand off the list as no go.
All fluff and no stuff.
Yeah, I want the stuff. If I'm gonna buy it, I want that. Part of my words, I want that shit in there.
Don't worry, I interviewed a guy the other day, and he had a lot of coarse language. Anyway, Zach, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Tell everyone where they can find you, how they can find you.
I'm under Inspiration Zach on Instagram, Zach Blain on Facebook, and I train out of Klamath Falls, Oregon. And you can find me online, and I handle everything through personal message. So message me on Facebook or Instagram. I love to connect with people, and now with their digital formats, I look forward to connecting to more and more people I can help across time zones. And other than that, I usually try to put out content every day, and always look forward to communicating with people in different languages and time zones as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today, Zach. And
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You got it. This is K-Rail, and this has been the Pine Pollen and Train for Longevity podcast. I was interviewing my good friend Zach Blain. Make sure to check out all his stuff. Make sure to follow him on Instagram and social media and Facebook and all that fun stuff. Also, make sure to go get yourself some pine pollen. You want good, clean energy that's going to help balance your hormones and help you become a beefcake in the gym? Make sure to get some pine pollen. Clean stuff. No artificial colors, sweeteners, flavors, or ingredients to be found, my friend. Also, make sure to get our rebuild program, which you can find on Train for Longevity as well. It's got a lot of fun stuff in it. Food, fitness, fasting. We dot all the I's and we cross all the T's. Until next time, this is K-Rail reporting live, and I'm going out to pick up some trash because it's a beautiful day out. Keep it strong and stay positive. Remember, put that positive chi out to the universe, and it'll come back to you 10 times greater. Until next time.